Okay, this is just going to be a really brief tutorial on how I use Inkscape. So in the sidebar here, which you can access, so I have it open, so I keep all of my illustrations in one file, and that's just to make them easy to reuse. You can copy them between files, but I find that's unnecessary. I just keep them all in a library, and then I export them one by one. So just to cover the basics, like obviously if you draw shapes, if you want to export something, you want to go to this tab here. So this is the sidebar. Most of your most of like your stuff that you need to interact with objects is located in the sidebar. And so you have different tabs. The first tab is all of your objects that you can either select here this way, or you can select them by selecting their entry in the list of all your objects. This hierarchy is important because what's on top of what, the top of the list is what's closest to your face, and anything underneath can be buried underneath an object. So, but I just want to make sure that we get to this. So you can select an object or a group of objects, and you can export just the selected. And so this is pretty handy for if you're making an illustration, then you just hit export. Check this file path, because for me, it likes to do this weird thing where it goes, and this might just be a Linux issue, but it duplicates one of the folder names, and then so I have to sometimes just go in manually and reset this to be the folder that I actually want. And so anyway, so you can hit export. That allows you to export individual objects. So boom, that's really important. Okay, but otherwise, so these are your objects. So you can create new objects by just creating some shapes. I usually just press the escape key to get out of them, and then you select a group of them, and then you can right click and group. Okay, now this becomes like a folder inside of here that you can rename if you want to, and then you can reuse that group if you have the group selected. Now if you click on an individual object inside of the group, you can get the individual object inside of the group. Okay, so this is important. So now if you create a new object like that, it'll show up inside that group. So that's important to be aware of. If you ever do that accidentally, you can just drag it outside of the group, and there we go. Now that'll be a different object. Okay, so that's a good one. Another really useful tool is the ability to make clip groups. So we can take these guys, put it on top of that one, and I can select both of these objects, and I can right click, and I can say set clip, and that'll make the top object that was there basically like a little window that just allows me to see that part. So that's really handy because, for example, this object here, we can exit, release the clip group, and you can see that this is part of a much bigger object. And I'm just zooming in on one part of it, so that way I can zoom in on particular bits of my illustrations. So that's pretty handy. But otherwise what I do is I have my different layers here, and so under my base layer you can make these visible or invisible. So we've got this here, and I'll just reuse assets from this. So I can go into here, double click, I can get this guy. So this is an SLF blob, or T cell, or B cell, which I'm going to update to look more like this. But then I can copy that and reuse it in new figures and stuff. Okay, cool. So the other important thing is that you can resize objects, like this one, for example. So you can do that. So if say I want to copy it, I want to create a new figure, I'll press escape a bunch of times so that you just get to the top of the layer. I paste it, Control V somewhere. Okay, so now if I try to resize it, it'll go wonky like that. But if I hold the Control key, then I can scale it proportionally. Now the issue is that everything is scaled, so it'll change the stroke. So here you have like stroke style and weight, and that'll change the width of the stroke and everything. So that's good to know. Often when you have a shape, especially if it's like a rectangle or something, so let's get rid of this guy. And then we'll create a square. And when I say we want to put some text inside that square, just grab the text tool, do something like that. Oh no, we can't. Let's see. So this is some text. Okay, and we can go to the text thing. We can go to the we get the font size. We can increase the font size to 40, and we can change the color of the font. This is a little funny because for fonts, so you can just change it to like green or something. But fonts often have they could have strokes, for example. But in any case, yeah. So and then in the text field, when you change the size, you do certain types of things to it. Actually, I need to hit apply. Okay. So now if I want to change this square, I could do this thing to change the size, but that's going to change some other properties of that square. So when you have these objects, if you double click like that, you can scale them, but the better way to do it most of the time is to double click again and you get to adjust the vertices. And that's the way to do it. And technically that's a different tool. So we have the Bezier tool, for example, and this is a really useful tool to learn how to use. But you can, once you've done that, if you're doing that, finish, double click, and you have a shape, right? And then if you want to edit it, you can do that, and you can even add additional points to it. And you can play around with it. But yeah, so important thing to note, so you have a few different types of selectors. You can, usually probably want to use the Bezier tool. This also works fine to just draw straight lines. You just do like that. You just don't drag them. And you can just draw paths that way too. So if I took this object and I gave it a stroke, but I took away the fill, then it would just be a line, right? So there you go. That's basically how to use Inkscape, all the important features that I use on a daily basis. And yeah, if you do that, it won't trip you up. So cool.